Most of the times when I've lived in apartments, and I've lived in ones, I don't want to name who the developer was because they were in town. There was a lot of reconstruction going on, but it didn't require people to move out. And I don't want to create an incentive where, we were market rate, but it would have been really inconvenient. I had 2 kids, people were changing jobs, people have all sorts of situations. We had neighbors who were pregnant, et cetera. That they have to move into a hotel and bear the expense themselves when they're paying fairly expensive rent. And probably the reason they're there is they thought they had a more or less a stable situation, that they weren't going to be packing their bags and putting things in storage. I think that's to some degree a decision of the landlord that they're moving people out to do that work. Maybe it's not sometimes, but I hope that's very rare, and I would like to set up a circumstance where it is rare. So those are my thoughts. That's why I'm a little leery of means testing that particular thing, because I think we may be setting up an incentive to massively inconvenience people who are paying a lot of money.
Councilmember Clark.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I think, but I think in the vast majority of cases, most landlords are going to offer accommodations in those cases because they want that tenant back, right? They're not a tenant in a below market rate unit or a rent controlled unit that's paying below market. And frankly, it happens all the time. You get, most of the time they're going to move you into another unit within the complex, or they're going to find some way to take care of you. And I just don't think it's great in the vast majority of the state or the country. These things just work themselves out, and it just feels strange to me, and it's really hard for me to go to a constituent and justify a really significant relocation and moving cost provision that isn't means tested. I just feel like that's just a better way to do it. But I guess what I was going to say overall is I think we can thread the needle and land the plane with everyone here for the most part. I think the means testing might be a little tricky, but I'll just say that if what was summarized by the mayor and staff is where we've landed, where I just wanted to clarify that there's a reference to the moving cost cap in the ordinance, but it's defined in the administrative guidelines later. So what I would suggest is we take everything that staff has that they've heard from us. They can come back to us for the first reading in December. The benefit of that is, one, we can hear from anyone in the general public between now and then. It comes back on consent. With all the things that we've identified tonight, so hopefully it won't be super controversial. It doesn't have to have the moving cost cap at that point, but at least we'll get additional feedback. We can still make amendments that night if someone wants to pull it, but I think the majority of our comments have been aired tonight, so hopefully it'll be in pretty much final form. We still have the second reading shortly thereafter. Everything really kind of gets done roughly on time. There's also the opportunity for additional public input to us within that time frame. And the moving cost cap, I don't think we should have an entire council meeting item on that. I think that could come back as a recommendation from staff on consent. If someone thinks whatever they've come up with is egregious, then we can pull it. But at least we've codified it and we've seen it. But I don't think we need an item just for the administrative guidelines. Hopefully everyone agrees on that. But I think if we move forward with on all of that, have it come back to us in December on consent. Someone can pull it if we're really uncomfortable with anything, and then we can move forward in whatever shape or form we want. I think that solves a whole bunch of different issues, and we could even just do, if we want to put the means testing to bed, we could do a straw poll, just a raising of hands before we make motions to amend or substitute motions and try and tank something, because I think everyone's been very everyone has tried to very, very hard to see everyone else's side tonight. So maybe just a show of hands, and then we can either the maker of the motion, either way, can either accept that or not, and we can go from there. But maybe that's a friendly way to do it. But that's up to the mayor, not me.
Mayor, may I provide maybe an important detail to this discussion? I just want to flag that there was a lot of thought about this issue, and there's a specific piece in the recommended amendments too that, for example, for temporary relocation situations, is that if a tenant accepts a temporary relocation option, they're still paying rent on their unit, which offsets the cost that the landlord would have to pay. And I think that is an important piece of information, but they would still be paying rent, but it was the easiest way that we thought of administratively so that benefits temporarily could be provided to the displaced tenant, but the landlords are still getting rent for the unit while it's getting renovated.
Okay. So I think that takes care of that then. So I don't think we need to do the straw poll. Councilmember Clark, does that sound fine? Or do you want to still do? I thought that's why you were leaning for. Was that, did I misunderstand?
That's for temporary. The moving cost piece, we had embarked on this direction because the initial direction was to make it available to all tenants regardless of income, and but if there's a modification on that, then yeah. But that was the direction that we took to have a number for everyone. I think part of it, what Councilmember Clark was saying, was a way to address maybe the moving cost piece, but that was what I was saying here was really related to the temporary relocation piece. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the moving costs that I was concerned about providing to just anyone without uncapped, and
Okay.
it just seems strange.
Well, I think before we do the straw poll on the means testing part, you made another suggestion on a change. So I want to make sure, I want to check in with the vice mayor that it's okay, right? Because you said you would want the December 9th to be the first reading. Is that right?
And the intent of that is just to give staff the
The
time
right.
to.
I just wanted to I just want to clarify for the record, right? Yeah. So
if staff doesn't need the time, that's fine. But if I were them, I'd want it. I don't.
So I would say putting that forward. I would ask just if we do that just for discussion and input purposes, have the December 9th as the first reading. Could we turn around and have the second reading our following meeting? No, you need to have, because it has to be a regular, the next regular, because it's a special.
Correct.
So it would be January
27th.
So it would be like a month difference, give or take. Yes, City.
Thank you. If I may, if you do choose to more create a motion where it's directing staff to bring back the ordinance for a first reading, taking, amending it based upon the comments received. If you could not set a specific date, but ask staff to bring it forward back as quickly as possible, because while it's suggested it be put on consent when looking at our TAO and so on, we may need to make sure it comes to a meeting where if it's going to get pulled, we have the time to make that happen. So allowing staff to pick the timing when we'll bring it back as quickly as possible for the first reading, especially since we won't get a second reading until the end of January.
Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there before we do the straw poll, and see if there's an openness to that, to the motion maker.
Sorry, that was the that was
I'm
the
sorry. I know.
That's okay. That was the suggestion, so I need to go back to you as the motion maker.
I'm trying really hard not to be unreasonable, but
I think, I mean, I think that what's nice about that, I think, is it tackles the public outreach, community outreach piece, and maybe it can be in the administrative guidelines, but then,
I'm much more comfortable with a time certain.
Yeah, I mean, I think that staff can work, you and I can work with, we can get it as fast as possible, knowing that the second reading would be on consent.
I guess I'm curious to see what my other colleagues think about that too.
But there's a question on the floor, and I think as the motion maker to continue the discussion, right? She needs to.
So if I say, I'll say no now, and then we could do a straw poll?
Mm-hmm. There was a request to change, to make an amendment to the current motion, so I'm asking.
Whether or not I accept it as a friendly amendment,
Yes.
or then he could treat it as
All right,
a
I'm just
substitute.
trying to follow procedure,
Rosenberg's rules.
Yes, trying to follow all the rules, yes. So, okay, so looking into the city clerk, I can take a straw poll, and perhaps that can curb continued discussion and people can just decide. So, the suggestion was to bring the ordinance back as a first reading, I would say like by December 9th or before. Because it has a second reading date, but we could try to do it before. Are people interested in that? Can I say that?
How about, I think we have a meeting December 16th, is that right? If you, yeah, it is, but it's introducing an ordinance, so you can do that at a special meeting. So if you could say by December 16th, that would give. Or earlier. Okay. And it would still allow the second reading to occur in January.
Okay. All right. So if you are interested in having the item come back for first reading before December 16th. Raise your hand.
On or before.
On or before December 16th. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Okay. So that looks like 5. Okay. So that. 6.
Stop. No.
Okay. So so then we take the vote on the current motion, or? Yes, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you. Just want to make sure. So that didn't get included. The means testing did not get included. So we're just going to call the question now. Is that all right? Mm-hmm. All right, everyone.
And
yes.
To be clear, the means testing I was suggesting was for any benefits that that are new. So not means testing existing things, just any new benefits to the non-CSFRA ones. But if that's been put.
Well, and maybe when the item comes back, staff can provide detail, or I don't know if there's more information that you would.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Shall we vote? Yes, staff.
What are we voting on?
So the what I repeated earlier. Nothing. I'll repeat it one more time. Yes.
Well, the current motion, I believe, is to adopt or adopt the first, adopt the ordinance in first reading, and that's not what you're doing at this stage. So I think a new motion is warranted that directs staff to bring back the ordinance for a first reading on or before December 16th, incorporating all
the changes that we discussed tonight.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And we don't need to restate all those changes because those are already in the record, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Does the current, so shall we do we need to do a withdrawal of the motion, or do we need to do a substitute motion? Since we need to do, yes. City Attorney Logue.
Who's going to make it? Are you going to make it, Emily? If you do a substitute motion, it could be somebody else, but I mean, if you're
But
just
if you're
gonna,
okay with it, then you can.
if you're gonna do it, you can just modify your motion.
All right, I will modify my motion to have it bring back on or before December 16th, but all the items on there are staying that we have all collectively agreed to. So that means I probably won't read the motion because it's,
Correct, you're not gonna read the title anymore. You are,
Great. Okay. Yes.
you,
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, it's the same motion. It's just that we're bringing it back on or before 12/16.
Okay. So is the seconder okay to be the seconder? No. Okay. So you can withdraw. And then would someone else like to second the motion? Okay, it's been seconded. Let's vote. All right, and that passes, what is that, 5-2. All right, thank you to staff, thank you everyone. May someone make a motion so I can close out our meeting to continue past 10 p.m.?
So moved.
Great, let's vote. All right, and that also passes 5-2. So we'll move on to item 7, which is our council and staff committee reports. Does anyone have a report? Councilmember Showalter.
Excuse me, I need to find the right paper. I guess the first thing I would say is that we all had a council appointments committee yesterday, and I appreciated the announcement that you made about other people needing to step up. That was very good. And along with that, one of the subjects that arose was that the bylaws for the downtown committee specify different categories different categories. And we haven't been able to meet all of those categories in many years. So I think it would be good for when the bylaws are revised, we're going through and we're revising all of the advisory committee resolutions and things for the downtown committee membership to be relaxed, so that we don't have this problem of the numbers in the right boxes. Would Ellen or Emily like to clarify that? I mean, did I get that sort of what we were talking about? Yeah, okay, all right. Then the other thing I wanted to say is that last Wednesday we convened a meeting of the Santa Clara shoreline cities to talk about sea level rise and the progress that has been made over the last year and what we want to do moving forward. And we had really good staff participation from all of the cities. We had elected officials from Mountain View, Valley Water, Sunnyvale, and Campbell. Campbell was representing VTA, and a staff representative for the county and for San Jose. So we had a really robust discussion, and I think one of the things that we celebrate, or we should celebrate here too, is that the county has received a $2.4 million grant for planning for sea level rise to get our regional shoreline adaptation plan together. And this grant goes for 3 years, and we will our staffs together will be working on a plan that will have to be passed by all of our cities. And I think it's important to remember that in addition to just the cities in Santa Clara. We also have Valley Water taking an active role. They are the flood protection agency for the county, and VTA. There's a lot of transportation implications with sea level rise protection. So that's my report.
Great, thank you. Does anyone else have a report? Councilmember Clark?
If you don't have anything, Mayor, I was just going to say something about.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I was looking through my calendar trying to remember everything. We had Monster Bash over the weekend, which was lovely, and we had our CARC meeting, our Council Appointment Review Committee. We had our EPC interviews the other week. Let me see, and what else am I forgetting? And I think that's everything that we've done since then. And then, so I'll move on to item 8, since there's no others, which is adjournment. And tonight we're adjourning the meeting in memory of Monique Kane, who provided special service to our community as the former executive director of the Community Health Awareness Council. She was also a member of our Kiwanis Club of Mountain View and a member of the Mountain View Rotary Club. Our thoughts are with her and our loved ones. And I know that many of us had the opportunity to know Monique as she was a fabric of our community for decades. And I want to turn it over to Councilmember Clark for a few words.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I was deeply sorry to hear that we lost a champion in our community. Monique led CHAC for a long time. I worked with her closely when I was on the board, both as a council member and not as a council member. And she was not only instrumental in ensuring, everyone's, not just CHAC, but the community's commitment to youth mental health and counseling services, but she was also instrumental in the long-term well-being of the organization, which is now Pacific Clinics. I worked with her closely on the land swap to get them into the building that they're in now, which used to be the business that I worked at before it was CHAC. And the Malik family and Monique and the business that I worked for at the time worked really hard to make that happen. And I think, anyway, we lost a great champion, not just for Mountain View, but for youth mental health and a number of other causes in the Bay Area. So, as you said, Mayor, thoughts are with her family, and certainly celebrating an incredible life and all the gifts that she gave to everyone.
Yes, very much agreed, and a woman of the year, and just a great sense of humor too, which I really appreciated. She always had a smile and a laugh. So our next City Council meeting will be held on November 4th, 2024. This meeting is adjourned at 10:52. Sorry, 20. November 4th, 2025. The meeting is adjourned at 10:51 p.m.